it going, guys? Casey here with the Coyote Works channel. So out on another adventure, and this time I've got my buddy TexPat in tow in his Ford Raptor. So on this trip, what I'm trying to do is track down an old cave that I found years ago and I haven't been to in, I don't know, probably 10 years or more. And it's way the hell and gone out here. And this time of year, we've got the snow melting and warmer temperatures, which results in a lot of muddy soil. Kind of a combination between snowy areas and muddy areas. So it'll be interesting to see where we can get to. But no matter what, we're gonna have a great time. We'll do a little camping. I think Don's got some good food along with him, and I've got some good food along with me, so we'll do a little bit of camp cooking. We'll do some exploring. Maybe we won't see if we can't get one of these rigs stuck since we've got two of us along. So anyway, come along, guys, and let's have an adventure. All right, so we're tracking down this road, and there's actually been a little bit of traffic on it this spring, it looks like, so it's not terrible. Oh, look at that. I'm not sure what's going on here, but clearly what it looks like is there's somebody camped back in there and maybe somebody else coming in here and dropping off gear to them. Let's look at the map. I think we're about 4 or 5 more miles down here to the road. To the general area where that cave is. And
there's a lot drier than the last few videos that you had of yourself out here.
So what year is this?
This is 2014.
14, okay. All right, well, that was an interesting stop. I'm not really sure what. There's clearly something going on back there. What it looked like was there's somebody camped back in there, or some group of people, and I don't know if it's maybe some kind of a BLM work crew, or maybe some ranchers got a cow camp in there. And then what we saw was their supply drop. We're on a mission to get out to that cave. I really want to see if we can find it. Otherwise, I would have hiked back down that trail and see what we could come up with, see what we could find out back there. But we'll do that another day, because for now, I want to go find this cave. All right, so stopped to look at the map, and TexPat jumped out to take a really quick picture, but I think we're getting close. I'm looking at this old, this is I think it's a 1972 USGS map that I pulled up and uploaded into my GPS software as my base layer. So I'm seeing some of these things on this map that aren't marked on the newer map, so that's pretty cool. Oh, it's starting to get a little soupy in here. We're getting pretty close to the area that cave's in, and it might take a little bit of hunting to find it. It's been a long time since I've been to it, and if I remember right, you can't drive to it, so we're gonna have to walk a little ways, but hopefully not too far. Wow, this is a soupy mess down here. I don't know if this was a good choice turning down this road, but we're stuck with it now. We having fun yet?
Yeah, I sure am.
All right, I've got all 4 lockers locked in, and I just barely pulled out of there, and it looks like we got the Raptor stuck. So, oh, and if I'm not careful, I'm gonna get me stuck. All right, so I barely got the Jeep out. I had it stuck for a couple of minutes, and it looks like we got the Raptor stuck. So we're gonna figure out what our plan of attack is here. Oh yeah. Can you get a snatch strap on one of those hooks? So I think what we'll do is let's pull from the far side.
The side over here?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so our first try is we're going to use a snatch strap. So I've got it, we got it shackled up to Don's bumper, and hooked up to my bumper, and I got all my lockers in down in 4 low, and we'll see if we can't snatch this thing out of here. So cross your fingers, hopefully this will go easy. I'm on a little bit of firm ground there. The problem is all of this is just soupy and sloppy, so we'll see how this goes. All right, now I'm stuck.
Oh no!
All right, hopefully I'll get some grip on those traction boards and be able to walk out of there. Like a high center.
You're really close.
All right, 4 traction boards, and 20 minutes later we got vehicle number 1 out. So now we're gonna go see if we can retrieve vehicle number 2.
Let's hope so.
Oh boy, hope that little tree holds. That's our only chance. I don't know if you guys can see this, but that little juniper tree is hanging on just by a thread. And that's probably about our last hope for getting TexPat out of here.
Okay. Momentarily unstuck. Look at that soup.
All right, well, we killed a couple hours getting the rigs unstuck. Now we're working our way out here a little further, but we're getting into more and more mud and water, so we'll see how this goes. After getting the rig stuck, trying to get back into the country where that old cave was supposed to be, we decided that a reroute was in order. We decided to completely change our game plan and head out into some country that I'd never been in before. We were going to have to travel about 25 to 30 miles to get into an area that I thought might be a good spot to camp.
That was pretty deep.
As it turned out, it would take us most of the rest of the day to traverse that 25 miles. That distance that looked so short on the map was littered with standing water and long stretches of muddy and soft soil. It's always a good idea when you're crossing sketchy areas to send one rig at a time across. So most of that afternoon we spent leapfrogging. We'd take turns with one of us in lead, and when we came to a bad spot, one vehicle would hold back while the other one would cross the nasty stretch. Once the lead vehicle got across it, he would radio back, and we'd send the second rig through.
I think it just went on a curve, so I'm going to just go through.
Okay, sounds good. To me, that country that we crossed that afternoon is some of the most beautiful country in the world. It's what they call big sky country. You can see sky for miles with nothing obstructing your view. And to me, there's just something incredible about knowing there's still places where you can drive for dozens of miles, hours on end, and never see another human being. In many places we went, not even a fresh set of tracks. All right, we're coming up on a homestead site here, but this is pretty muddy out here, so we're probably not going to stop and explore it much. We're just going to take a left and start working our way out towards another valley out here where there was a homesteading community. As evening started creeping up on us, we eventually spotted some trees off in the distance, and those trees signaled the potential for a good spot to camp.
Right there, is that pretty flat?
Alright guys, we found a great camping spot here. We still have about an hour and a half or so left till dark. We got a front coming in. Looks like we got a little bit of snow coming down. I can see a little bit of a front coming in over there, but we're gonna first get our tent and our sleeping areas set up, and then we'll tag team our community camping cooking area over there. So I'm gonna set up my Free Spirit Recreation 55 high country tent, and Tex Pat's over there setting up his Kodiak canvas tent outside his Raptor, so we'll grab a little footage of what's going on here for you guys. So I'll try to show you guys a little bit more of this a little bit later, but Tex Pat's running the setup. So just to show you guys that there's all kinds of different ways to approach overlanding. And Tex Pat's doing the old school, basically what I did for years, where he has a tent. Everything goes in the back of his truck, and the nice thing about that is when we're going through all that water and all that stuff today, all his gear is locked inside the bed of his truck with a watertight cover over it and everything, and then he just pulls out what he needs to set up his camp. It's actually a pretty slick setup. All right, well, we got our individual camp set up. Actually, Don's just finishing up his, and we're gonna set up our community camp area, our cooking area right here. So I'm gonna trim a few limbs back out of this tree because we got a little bit of snow, could have a little bit of rain. So we want to be able to get back up underneath this tree a little bit for some cover. I just want to get a little area trimmed out here so we can get stuff back nice and tight underneath this tree. Then I'm actually going to stack these branches back behind there to give us a little bit of a windbreak. Won't be much, but every little bit helps out here. Alright, so it's pretty windy out here, so I put together a fire reflective wall. Now I'm just taking some dirt and plugging up some of the major gaps in it, and this will just give us a nice calm place so our fire won't be blowing all over, and that'll make it easier to cook off of, and that'll also help kind of retain the heat back behind the fire a little bit, because I have a feeling we've got some delicious cooking to do tonight. Is that right, Tex Pat? We got some good food to... All right, I think we're gonna call that good. Tex Pat started gathering some wood, so I think I'm gonna go help him get some wood, and we'll get a fire going and get our camp set up here. All right, so Tex Pat's assured me he's gonna show me an old Indian trick for starting the fire, and I told him I already know the Paiute fire starting method and the Apache fire starting method, so we'll see what he's got to show for us.
This is the Texas starting method. We use a torch.
Oh, nice. All right, I'm going to call that a win, so that's how they start fires in Texas, huh?
That's how we do it.
Nice. All right, well, camp's all set up. and Tex Pat's got some steaks he's getting ready to throw on the grill. He's got the deluxe size grill. Man, I'm starving, so.
Yeah, me too, actually. We'll get that on. I have the vegetables. That we'll just sit over here. These are just peppers and onions and such.
Perfect. Oh, those look delicious. Is that a cast iron tray?
Yeah, it is. It's a lodge.
Oh, I like that.
Oh yeah, this is starting to get nice and hot.
So this is where having some shorter sections of wood really shines. So we've got coals over there that we're going to cook the steaks over, and we've got a nice little vegetable medley that Tex Pat put together. But over here on this side of the fire, I want to continue burning wood. So we're constantly producing coals over here. Maybe, yeah, just pick them up for a second and I'll get some coals. All right, I got another set of these Rome pie irons, but I've got to season them. So I just burned the wax off of them. I'm gonna let them cool for a couple of minutes, and then I'll season them up with some Crisco.
This area seems to be the hottest, so I'm just having them over there. We'll should get my headlamp so I make sure that we don't burn them.
Yeah, those steaks look amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
This is exactly the same thing. Boom, dinner is served. That looks amazing. Couple of steaks. Don's got himself a glass of port there.
No, it's what is it? Malbec.
That's nice.
It's good.
We can trade.
No way, man.
Are you sure?
No. If you wanted it more done, I can throw it back on there for you.
Those vegetables are amazing. Well, I didn't want to tell you when we were out there, but we had your truck about halfway across that when we winched it that long stretch, and we hooked in your winch line to that little juniper tree, and we pulled that little juniper tree over. There was a period of time there when I did have the thought to myself that I don't know if we're getting this truck out of here.
Actually, I looked over and I looked at you, and for a store guy, I saw.
Well, I was just watching as you were winching through the mud. It was just like pushing up.
Yeah, I had looked over and I saw you out there, but I was thinking, uh-oh. But you know the thing is, you're so calm, right? Just like when you did your video with the Jeep on fire, you're like, oh, that's just your natural persona, you know. But I just when you're looking at it, I was thinking, I know he at least won't leave me out here.
No. Yeah. Well, and a lot of that just comes with just doing this stuff for so many years.
Yeah.
Like whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so you just.
And getting stuck is part of the game.
Getting stuck is part of the game. I mean, it's just gonna. Thank goodness it doesn't happen very often. I've gotten a lot smarter and.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that was quite a day. We had quite the adventure exploring around. Got the Jeep stuck, got the Raptor stuck, but all in all, it was still a pretty good day. Wanted to give a shout out to my friend Scott that sent me some sick Wilson combat gear. This hat's gonna make the perfect little nightcap for me tonight. So Scott, wherever you're at, I hope you're having fun out there, man. And but it's been a long day today, and I think that's about it for me. So I'll see you guys in the morning for coffee. Coyote Works out. Good morning, guys. It's about 10 minutes after 6, and the light is just starting to break a little bit out there. Having a little bit of breakfast. A couple of pieces of biltong. I don't hear Tex Pat moving around out there yet. So probably just chill in here and have a little breakfast, have a little coffee. Well, not a little breakfast. This is just my first waking up in the morning snack. So we'll go out there and get a fire started next.
Yeah, so we have this is another old Southwest Texas camping technique.
Awesome. And you've got the hot pot.
Cool down.
So this just hooks into your. Oh
yeah,
you've got an inverter.
Yeah, I have a 110 half hour AGM battery back there.
Yeah.
And a 2,000 watt inverter, and so yeah, so I because this takes about 1,000 watts to run. It's not the most efficient, but this is actually my home one. I just take this with me. Yeah, exactly when I go. You know, so I just like to make great coffee. Here's the coffee. I have enough to make like 10 pots. So if you want more coffee, just let me know.
Well, this is perfect, guys. Don made a couple of pots of coffee, so we're just kind of more enjoying the morning here. And it is gorgeous in this spot. It got pretty cold last night, down to about 22 degrees. My thermometer said this morning when we woke up. There's a little bit of frost on everything. But we're right up on this little ledge, kind of at the base of these rim rocks back behind us. And we're just looking out over this big valley out here. And this big valley out here was one of the places that was homesteaded in the early years out in this area in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And it's just interesting. I was sitting here this morning looking out over that valley thinking, I wonder if somebody back in 1900 was riding his horse along this ridgeline looking out there over his homestead and over his cows out there. So I'm just enjoying my morning coffee, get a little caffeine in me, and I'll probably start putting some breakfast together pretty shortly. Alright, so I brought a variety of stuff along for breakfast. Got a couple of eggs, some pre-cooked hash browns sliced up, some cheese, some bacon. I got these pie crusts. I was going to make dessert last night, but I didn't get around to it. And I got a can of biscuits, so we'll see out all that stuff if we can't whip us up some kind of a decent breakfast. All right, we got some bacon going, got some biscuits in the pie irons. So with a little luck, we should have some breakfast shortly. All right, let's check these biscuits out. Oh yeah, beautiful. Look at that. Perfect. Whew. All right, breakfast is served. Don whipped up a masterpiece. Had a little chorizo, bacon, some hash browns in the bottom. So one thing is, I really like to load up on breakfast because usually once we start moving and exploring, I have a tendency to not slow down and not stop to eat much along the way. So I try to really load up heavy on the protein and fat in the morning to carry me through as much of the day as possible. I do keep some snacks kind of handy, but I rarely ever actually stop for like an official lunch stop. That's pretty amazing, Don.
Glad you like it.
That's nice. The sun came out and it's actually getting pretty warm.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
You having a good time?
Oh yeah, awesome. Really, really good time. It's beautiful today. Who knows what today will lead?
Well, let's not say we're having too good of a time because I don't want Scott to be sad.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not.
So Scott, if you're watching, we miss you. We're having a great time out here. So hopefully sometime, maybe like late April or something,
yeah, that's
we'll
right.
be able to get together.
And I'll do the steaks again, Scott, and we'll do breakfast, and it'll be awesome.
And you're gonna like Don's cooking much better than mine.
Yeah, I was like, hey, somebody on Coyote Works that's not in Mountain House.
I just got back from my morning little walk and I found a couple of artifacts around here, and it's always really interesting to me. I drive out through this country and I start looking for a place to camp towards the end of the day, and then in the mornings, usually in the evenings, I don't have enough time to hike around camp and explore, so it's not until the mornings that I get to explore. And it's crazy how many times the spot that I picked to camp happens to be a spot that people long ago also picked to camp. It's like the things that make a good camp site, some level ground, some wood, you know, those things have been constant over time. So this spot here, we got a nice level bench. We're out of the wind a little bit, overlooking a big valley out there. And when I hiked around this morning, I found artifacts, old cans and stuff from, somewhere around early 1900s. Maybe even a few relics that might have been from around the late 1800s, right over on the other side of my Jeep. And then just a short ways out of camp, I started finding the Native American artifacts. So there's potentially been people camping right here in this same spot for hundreds, if not thousands of years. It's just crazy that this same spot right here that we just happened to pull into because it looked good, we are not the first persons to camp here. I've just been letting my Ready Light charge up out here in the sun, and it looks like it is all charged up.
Oh, cool.
So I'm gonna stick it back in the bag. And this is the last piece of gear that I was waiting for, so now I'm gonna throw my gear in the Jeep. Looks like dawn's getting pretty close, so we'll probably be rolling out of here shortly. I'm looking forward to seeing the country on the other side of this rise. Alright, for those of you that like to know this stuff, I'm carrying the Glock 19X today. This has become kind of my general EDC pistol. I carry my SIG 229 Legion sometimes too, but to be honest with you, this Glock's a little lighter, and I'm really appreciating carrying a little bit of a lighter pistol these days. Put my light right here towards the rear, because as you guys know, I roll into camp after dark a lot, and so that makes it one of the first things I can grab out of my Jeep is the light. I can get it set up and have some light to set up my camp if I need it. Generally speaking, I can get my camp set up and torn down in about 20 minutes either side if I just hit it and move at it. Now, on days like today when we're in no hurry to get out of camp, well, other than we got some cool country to see, I kind of take my time, and I'll take about 25-30 minutes or so, clean everything up nice, get it all buttoned up so it's all ready for the next trip. We're just about ready to pull out of camp, but I always like to leave some snacks for my coyote brothers behind. It's been a long winter and probably a hard one on them, so I'll leave them a nice, delicious snack of some bacon and some biscuits here. Text Pat, this is Coyote Works. Do you copy? I'm just checking my other radio.
Copy that.
All right, we're rolling out.
Roger.
All right, we are on the trail. Well, it looks like we went from muddy to rocky, so we're just up out of camp, about a quarter of a mile, and we are basically just rock crawling over a boulder patch here. So we're coming across the top of a ridge line, and hopefully as we drop back down on the other side of it, we'll end up with a little less rocky terrain. The problem is it may be less rocky, but it may be more muddy, so this will be interesting. This is an unknown route. I've never been through here. This road's rough enough that I hope this isn't going to be one of those situations where we get down here and we get to a place that's impassable and we have to turn around and backtrack a long ways. That will not be fun. So we're on the track that we're on is paralleling an old historic wagon route, and we're coming down into this valley where, according to the history books I've read, out in this big valley out here, there was some really shallow water that they were able to dig hand-dug wells to, and there were about a dozen homesteads out in this valley. Now, it's pretty muddy out in a lot of it, so I don't think we're going to be able to get to much of it, but I did want to jump out. In fact, right here is a good spot where we can jump out and I can show you guys these wagon roads. So right where we're standing in between two. There's one of the old routes right there, and then one right here, and then the more modern track that we're driving on is about 10 more feet that way. And what happens where there's a little bit of a slope right here, so where their wagon tracks went, then water would follow those tracks and run off. cut them deeper and they'd wash out, so they'd create another one right next to it.
Interesting, very cool.
If we ran a metal detector up and down these routes, and this is what I do a lot, is I'll bring my metal detector out, and then you'll find like old boot tacks.
Oh, cool.
Because a lot of times the people didn't even ride in the wagon. They had the wagons loaded up with so much stuff
they just walk behind.
that they would walk alongside the wagon, or in some cases walk in front and lead the team. So you can find old boot tacks, old ox shoes, things like that. So I don't know if there's any hope of this showing up on camera, but one of the classic signs of the old wagon route is the wagons were fairly narrow, and so the tracks that they ran on usually had a fairly narrow bottom, and they're kind of a U-shaped depression. And I can tell standing in this track that this is too narrow to be a modern vehicle. This was cut by wagons here. As I look down it, I can see that it's, you know, the entire track's like 5 or 6 feet wide or so. Yeah, this country's just full of history out here, and we're in this pocket of it. I don't know, probably about roughly 75 miles by 150 miles or something chunk of country out here that's just rough enough that nobody really gets into it. Plus, for the average person, there's just not really anything that interesting out here. I wasn't sure when we left camp if we were going to be able to, number one, find the roads through here, or number two, if they were passable, but so far so good. So we'll see. We've got to drop down. We're going to cross another little ridge line and then drop down into another kind of a valley, and that's where things can get kind of problematic, is in the valley floors where the water's kind of settling this time of year. Oh, I'm going to call this a no-go. I'm thinking this is a no-go, Don.
Yeah, I think so.
If you want to reverse a little bit, I'll pull over here. We can get turned around, and I'd like to jump out of the rigs and just look around a little bit here. This water hole would have been a good place for people to camp. Tex, Pat, and I just stumbled into the mother lode. There's obsidian all over the ground here, and we're right by, I don't know if you can see back behind us, you can see our trucks, and then right back there, there's a water hole, and it's holding water right now. So this would have been a spot. So this is definitely a camp here. This is a primitive camp, and by the amount of obsidian and tools and stuff that are on the ground here, this was a camp that they came back to year after year for a long time. Out here in this country, wherever there's water, there was activity. What's that look like right there? The point of an arrowhead. Actually, probably more like the point of a big knife. I'll leave that right there for future generations to enjoy. All right, so that was a fun little stop. We checked out around the perimeter of that little lake, and we found the remains of, going all the way back again to prehistoric times, with the Native American artifacts all around it. And then we also found evidence a few different places around it. Some old cans, some old axe cut limbs off of juniper trees. So once again, it was that water hole was a gathering place, or kind of a magnet for people out here in this country. So, but it also looked like a really cool place to camp. So I marked it on my GPS, because I think I might come back and camp and do some more hiking around this area. Man, one thing is I'm just so fortunate to live in an area where I have all these endless miles of country close to my house to explore. It's one of the greatest feelings in the world to be out here in the middle of this wide open country, just exploring, finding the traces of the old history that's out here, waiting to see what's over that next little draw or that next little ridge, seeing what's in the next canyon. Everything's always an adventure out here, and sometimes it doesn't always go as you plan, but it's always an adventure, always a good time. coming through some of these places, there's just enough of a element of risk of are we going to make it or not. Adds a little bit of adrenaline to it. And
I can go first and just run through it.
and just hit it hard and fast.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I think with some momentum. Whew. All right, guys, that was a sketchy one, because if we would have got stuck out in the middle of that, there was nothing to winch to and nothing but soft ground for hundreds of yards all around us. So that was a little bit of a risk, but it's our only way out of here, except for the alternative is backtracking the entire way that we've came in here, which would take us, probably 5 hours or more. So I'm stoked we made it through that. Looks like we got some more soft stuff coming up. All right, so I'm gonna let Dawn get all the way through it, and then I'm gonna hit it hard. All right, here we go. Traction control is off. Ooh. Yeah, it looks like I got another deep one coming up here, so give it a little gas. Got another deep one here. Like TexPat sunk pretty good in this one. Nice, nothing to it. Now we're finally back on some smoother roads and no mud in front of us. So I can catch up on my coffee intake. Another gift from my buddy Scott from Wilson Combat. This is like a man-sized coffee cup. Keep my adventure fueled for the rest of the afternoon. We're gonna make a stop up here. I think you guys have seen this old ghost town, or the site of an old ghost town, in some videos before, but it's called Stauffer, and we're kind of on our way out now, but we'll stop there and I can show TexPat around it. I don't think, well, I know he's never seen it before, and hopefully he'll think that it's kind of cool, and we'll probably grab a beverage and maybe a snack or something to get us the last stretch on out to the pavement. All right, well, we stopped here at this, this is the old ghost town site of Stauffer. Hand-stacked rock in there. So right here was an old root cellar. There's a few of the boards still. Over time, we're in kind of this area with some sand dunes out here, but over time the wind's blown the sand into it, but you can still see a little bit of the stacked rock foundation around the perimeter of it, and some of the old rough sawn boards here. Tin stove. This stove probably came out here on a buckboard or a wagon. Right where I'm sitting here, I'm up inside a stone foundation. You can see all the flagstones that they hand laid in here kind of showing through, and there's a little bit of a mortared wall here, and right here is an old bed frame. Somebody slept on this bed over 100 years ago. You finding any treasures out there?
Drinking the coconut water. Yes. These dyed Henson's sugar and calorie-free California or cherry.
All right, we had a little snack and Tex Pat's just off using the facility. I'm trying to keep myself caffeinated, and in just a couple of minutes we're going to hit the trail again. We still got a pretty good stretch to get out of here, and we've got some lowland to go through, but we're awful close to connecting back out of here. Well guys, it's been a pretty awesome trip. The thing that we found a couple of historic sites, but the thing that I'm most excited about was we connected this route. Oh, I got some mud here. Oh, this is soft. I gotta turn off my traction control. All right, I guess I gotta pay attention here. It's interesting how oftentimes I set out with one kind of a goal in mind for a trip and then never actually end up doing that thing that I originally set out to do. But I usually always have a good time, and a lot of times I end up finding something even cooler or even better than that thing that I set out to try to find. And this trip's a great example of that. We set out to go visit this old cave site. We got our rig stuck and weren't able to get back there, so we rerouted into a different area and just ended up finding some awesome country and actually finding a really important connecting route through a part of the country that I've always wanted to figure out how to cross. So that's something that I couldn't have done without another really capable rig along. And Tex Pat was really well prepared. So just so nice to travel out here, especially when conditions are kind of sketchy like this, with somebody else that's well prepared and has a good attitude about it. And that's one of the biggest things to me, is just having a good attitude about it. Man, we were stuck. We spent probably 3 hours trying to get our rigs out of there, and that's a really easy situation for somebody to get pissed off and freaked out in. But the truth is it's just all part of the adventure too. So you got to just kick back and make do the best you can with what you have to work with, and chalk it off as experience and let it all be part of the fun. All right, well, we're getting on more and more traveled roads, and we've still got about 11 miles before pavement, but for the most part, the adventurous part of the trip's done. Now I'm just looking forward to getting back and having a hot shower and a cheeseburger. So hope you guys enjoyed joining us for this trip. Scott, we missed having you along, but hopefully we'll get together for another trip in April and have you. As always, I appreciate all the support from you guys. The whole reason that I have a YouTube channel is because of all of you that enjoy watching it. And at the end of the day, hopefully my adventures can inspire a few of you guys to just jump in your rigs and get out and do some exploring. It's such a rewarding experience out here. It's truly one of my favorite things in the world to do, to just be driving some of these endless back roads out here. So that's about a wrap on this trip, guys. I'm just gonna enjoy the rest of the drive out of here, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Coyote Works, out.